Hey everyone, welcome to this week's episode of Hormonally Speaking. I am super pumped today to talk about one of my favorite areas, which is supporting your body as you're going through perimenopause, into menopause, and beyond. If you've listened to this podcast for a while, that I am a huge fan of bioidentical hormone replacement therapy, otherwise known as BHRT. I think almost every woman is gonna need it, should use it, obviously depending on what you're going through, but it is so useful, particularly for the long-term bone health, heart health, and brain health aspects of it. And we're just getting to a time now that we're discussing this in a much bigger way. We're discussing the safety of using BHRT, and then really how it can make you not only protect those things, but make you feel better as you age. So I'm super excited to speak with today's guest, who is Mary Beth Perrone, and she has a passion for women's topics, and it's evidenced by her contributions to women's health and wellness in many, many forms, physically, mentally, and spiritually. Through her work as co-founder of Radiate Wellness, she supports women on their perimenopause and menopause journey with clean, affordable products and services. As a co-founder, co-host, and speaker of the Women's Wellness Fest and Mindful Movement Florida, Mary Beth has empowered hundreds of women each year through yoga, meditation, and other wellness and healing modalities to empower, nurture, and rejuvenate women's minds, bodies, and souls. Mary Beth is a Chopra certified meditation instructor, Ayurvedic health coach, and sisterhood circle facilitator, fully committed to making the world and our communities a better place. You can find her at radiatewellnessproducts.com. Welcome, Mary Beth.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Yes, thanks for being here. So obviously, as I just mentioned at the end of the bio, that you have a product line that supports women in perimenopause and menopause. Let's talk about how you got into this work first.
So when I turned 38, perimenopause hit me like a ton of bricks. I suffered in silence for 6 months because I owned a fashion wholesale business out of New York. So I chalked everything off as stress.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm not sleeping because I'm stressed. I'm gaining weight because I'm stressed, stress. And actually, I flew back from New York and we were going to my favorite happy place, Asheville. And we were in the car driving there with my family. And I just had tears rolling down my eyes. And I didn't even want them to see. And I was like, this is not normal. This is something more than stress. So when I got back from that trip, I mentioned it to a friend. She's like, girl, you are in perimenopause. I told you it's going to happen. I'm like, I'm in what? Like, I'm 38 years old and I've never even heard of the term perimenopause. I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm in menopause already? Like, that's terrible.
Yeah.
And she's like, no, it's perimenopause. It's before menopause. And you have to go see this world-renowned hormone doctor. So thankfully he was in my backyard and I went there and I just felt so seen and heard. He's like, yeah, everything you're going through is completely normal. I'm like, I'm normal. I'm not losing my mind.
Sweet.
Yes. I was like, woohoo. And he was like, you should try natural progesterone cream. And within like 2.5, 3 weeks, I felt back to myself and I was like, why did I suffer so long in silence? But I had just never heard of it. Right. So,
Yeah.
and that is the one thing through this journey. I took his formulas and made them completely clean. But the one thing through the journey is just realizing how many women need the education.
Absolutely.
The education.
Yeah. Well, and I'm so glad that you brought up that you were 38, right? Because again, most women, if you bring up anything related to menopause, or perimenopause, they're like, no, I'm way too young. Or, I hear so often, well, I'm still having a regular cycle and all of those things. And I'm like, yes, you can have a regular cycle and still you're in this journey because really after age 35, we know, scientifically that our progesterone starts to naturally decline. And I think it will sort of be a light bulb for a lot of women when I say, well, think about those women that try and get pregnant after age 35. It is called a geriatric pregnancy, right? And a huge reason is because they know that progesterone is naturally declining and it's hard to maintain enough progesterone to maintain, harder after 35 to maintain a pregnancy. And so then they're like, oh, okay, you know, and so it's like this is going to show up in these different ways. And, you know, for me, it was I was 39 when I found out I had a fibroid, which I knew nothing about before, and is very much linked to what you're talking about, this, you know, lowered progesterone. So I'm super curious, like, when you talk to women about this stuff, like, do most of them have any clue that these things can happen to them?
No, we really don't. And like, so it's always bringing it back to like the basics. And I was there too, so I understand it. But you know, we aren't taught so little about our bodies, so women don't know what's going on and the times it's going on. And I wish someone would have told me, because as
Mhm.
our progesterone decreases, then our estrogen is flying like a roller coaster. I'm a
Mhm.
very visual person, so I have tons of graphs showing it.
Mhm.
But women aren't connecting the dots. So
Yeah.
when you start reading the symptoms, I'm like, it's everything less of growing horns. How could this
Yeah.
all be happening during menopause? And
So true.
then you realize like your hormones are like a lock and key, and everything
Mhm.
needs to be balanced, and it affects your entire body. So
Mhm.
that's why there's so many symptoms to it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
when I was
absolutely.
first learning about it, I was like, what? Like,
Yeah.
how could you have this? What is this? No.
Well,
Yeah.
it's so frustrating because most of our doctors don't even understand it, right? Our OBGYNs don't understand it. They're not talking about this. So it's like, how would women know, right? Unless they're listening to things like this. And, you know, obviously more and more people are finding through social media and starting to learn about these things, and hopefully staving off this like crazy journey, you know, like, or helping the journey, not staving it off necessarily. Can you explain? I like how you just mentioned the fact that you know, when your progesterone starts lowering, then your estrogen starts fluctuating. Can you kind of break that down for people, what that means, how that sort of impacts your menstrual cycle?
So the very beginning, about 35, and we have this information on our website too. It's our hormones 101. But at 35, your progesterone and your testosterone start to decrease, and then as you move into your early 40s, your estrogen is like a roller coaster, like I mentioned,
Mhm.
and that's when a lot of women are starting to see like their cycles change
Mhm.
slightly. They're becoming a little bit more irregular,
Mhm.
and then as you move into menopause, obviously, your levels start to decrease
Decrease. Yeah.
quite significantly. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And, you know, I like to let women know that, again, you know, I mean, I'm 44 and I still have regular cycles, but that doesn't mean that I don't need progesterone, you know? You know, there's all kinds of things that can happen. You have an anovulatory cycle, meaning you don't ovulate, but you can still bleed, right? So there's that. And then there's obviously the times when you don't bleed, when you have the anovulatory cycles. But just because you're still having a regular period in your 40s doesn't mean that you're actually ovulating every single time. Or if you are ovulating, because like what you're talking about, that lowered estrogen, which is kind of going off the previous cycle, right? Like maybe the estrogen was too high and like things didn't work quite well for ovulation. So your brain's like, hey, we're going to pull back this next cycle and we're going to have that lower estrogen. And then you don't have a really necessarily good ovulatory part of that cycle, right? So then you don't have great progesterone. And then so it goes kind of up and down each month.
And speaking of that, and I think that's also why there's such a hard time for women, because they want this validation, right? So they go get this testing and it's completely normal. But your
Mhm.
testing, if you're getting a blood test, is just a snapshot of a
Yeah.
certain moment, a certain time,
Yeah.
and not giving you a full clear picture. So
Yeah.
I hear from thousands of women like, but I went to the doctor and they said my blood works fine. I'm like, that's very typical,
Yeah.
especially in perimenopause. I say a symptoms tracker is one of the best. We do
Mm.
offer saliva testing through our partner, Your
Mhm.
Hormone Balance,
Mhm.
but I think a symptoms tracker gives you a really, really nice,
Yeah.
clear picture.
Yep,
So,
absolutely. And like you said, I mean, blood tests, very small snapshot. Half the time it's not even, they don't even know what day they're on in their cycle, right?
Yeah,
The doctor doesn't say, hey, you need to take this test 5 to 7 days post ovulation in order for us to actually see what's happening with your progesterone and those ratios between estrogen and progesterone. So I've had that so many times. Clients come to me and they're like, yeah, my doctor ran tests. And I'll say, well, what day of your cycle were you on? And they're like, I don't know.
they're like,
I'm
I
like,
have no idea.
useless,
Yeah,
Or
yeah,
sometimes they'll be like, I think I was on like day 13. I'm like, useless.
yeah. Yeah, I know, and everyone has to go through their own journey, but I
Right.
very much am like, yeah, you're gonna spend the money, and
Yeah.
I know it's gonna come back, but you have to walk your own journey, and we can give the information, the tools, and they have to connect the dots. But what really like just burns me up and makes me sad is like all the band-aids women get, right? Because they go in and they're complaining about having periods, they get the pill. They go in, they're complaining
Hmm.
about the stress, they get antidepressants, and I'm like, we're not getting to the root cause. Like you don't need
Hmm.
any of that. So
No.
you just need the support. So that's when I'm really like, I just want to say, oh, it's perimenopause. Like
Yeah.
we can change this. So
A
yeah.
100%, especially the antidepressants. I see that so often that's the first. I mean, it's either birth control or antidepressants, really, that most doctors will put women on when they start going through these things, right? And it's like you're talking about that's not the root cause, right? Like the root cause is hormones, and it's going to take care of them. What do you feel like are the biggest initial symptoms that women experience when they start going in peri?
So definitely the weight gain.
Mhm.
I little bit later on I'll hear night sweats, sleep
Yeah.
disturbances. Those are probably like what I hear most. And then as
Hmm.
women progress, I hear all sorts of things.
Yeah.
And
I
I laugh because now I'm known as the hormone lady. So how women come up to me all the time like, I have no libido. Can you help me? I
Yeah.
am sweating in the night. Can you help me? I'm like, sure,
Yeah.
sure. So
Yeah. It is crazy some of the symptoms that can happen too, right? Like sometimes clients will ask me what they should be looking out for, and often I'll say, what I see in my practice is the sleep issue is usually one of the first symptoms that come up, and then the anxiety,
yes.
issue, those two, and that's, lo and behold, that's progesterone right there, right? Like that's our anti-anxiety hormone and helps us sleep and all of those things. Um, but I've seen crazy things. I mean, just out of the blue, random things that happen for some clients. And you won't think about attributing that to perimenopause or menopause, but it totally will be, like they're like, suddenly I break out in hives, or like the histamine reaction becomes worse. These are things that I think a lot of people don't necessarily think about. And it's like, yep.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
they're like, I've never had an allergy,
Yeah.
or there's so many different things. But as women start to get around our age, 44, 45, I start to hear a lot about like hair thinning and
Yeah.
different symptoms that come
Yeah.
a little bit later. So
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So, do you recommend in general that women just kind of wait for some of the symptoms to kick in, or think about starting to use BHRT even, earlier to kind of maybe not have those symptoms be as bad?
I mean, now they're coming out with all these studies, which we knew earlier from the hormone doctor that I
Hmm.
work with, but
Hmm.
there's so many studies too. It's not just the symptoms, it's
Right.
all of the health benefits moving forward too. So there are so many links to dementia and, your brain health and all these different
Hmm.
things that I think that it's it's not just to treat the symptoms too. It's our long-term health. And
Hmm.
so again, you kind of have to see where you're at in your journey and what feels right to you.
Hmm.
But like something else I would shout from the rooftops for all women is magnesium and vitamin D. So if
Mm-hmm.
HRT doesn't feel right in your heart and you don't feel like that's the direction you want to take,
Hmm.
start on magnesium and vitamin D. And why I think we are so special and really stand out in the market. When I started this 5 years ago, everyone's like, what, transdermal? They didn't even hear that. But
Yeah.
our skin's our biggest organ. And so if you're absorbing through your skin, it's not processing through your liver. There's no GI upset, and you're actually getting the correct daily dose. So there's
Mm-hmm.
other options that if you don't feel that's right for your path yet, there's other things that I really think can help women because, as you know, I mean, magnesium's a cofactor of 300 functions in your body.
Yep. Yep.
So I
Yeah.
think that's a nice way to start too if your heart's not there yet.
So, do you guys have a simply magnesium product?
Yes, so
Yeah.
we have our Radiate Calm is magnesium and L-theanine,
Okay.
so that's
Nice.
great. And
Yeah.
again, if you have that initial sort of stress, which I did too, I never had anxiety, and like I felt like one night I had an anxiety attack, and I'm like, well, I am the calmest person ever. What's going on? So that was an interesting one.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yes, we do have that, and then our Radiate Joy is vitamin D and ashwagandha. So it's a
Oh,
great
nice.
combination. Yeah,
Yeah.
things
So,
clean, very
yeah.
clean. It holds up to the highest standards of clean beauty, which was a road and a half to get to.
Yeah, let's talk about that because you said you learned about these formulations from your doctor first, and then you decided to kind of run with it and create them on your own in a more clean way.
So they're all his formulas.
Okay.
So our physician formulated, but I thought since the doctor was giving them to me that they were clean,
Yeah.
and learned that was not the
Not
case.
so much. Yeah.
And so had to go back in with and work really, really hard to reach all the clean beauty standards. And as we know, the cleaner it gets, the shorter the shelf life, the
Yeah.
more expensive the ingredients. So it has been a journey, and it's a very tricky spot because sometimes the more natural ingredients will have a little bit of an odor. So working through all of that. So
Right.
2 years
Right.
later, they are completely perfect, but there was times in there that I was like, my hair is thinning, not because of hormones, because
You're like,
figuring out clean
this is
products."
super stressful, trying to help women not be stressed.
Yes, exactly.
So, can you mention some of the ingredients that are maybe, found more commonly in some of the either over the counter formulas or even prescription formulas that women should look out for and be like, that's not a good thing?
Well, I mean, fragrance free, obviously you want to start there. And you can, like, we use a database that I'd be happy to share that you can check through and make sure how clean your formulas actually are, but like all sorts of different things that we put in there and like natural preservatives to help women. So
Right. And I always mention to women in general when you're looking at products, if the thing has like 30 ingredients in it, it's not gonna be good, especially if you can't pronounce half of them, it's definitely, and like you said, putting it on your skin. Actually, I have a little story about that from one of my clients that I thought was, a really powerful way of understanding how much it can impact us on our skin. So she, is a person that didn't even like wash her face really. I was just like, I don't understand how your skin looks as good as it does since you never wash your face. But anyway, she ended up just nose diving. I think she was maybe 46 or 47. And it was like her estrogen was fine. And then all of a sudden it was just dropped. And she felt it so much in the sort of anxiety and depression and all those places. And so we got her on, some BHRT, and it was topical. And, it was fascinating because within a week she was having almost like, when I tell women, and I don't know if this is something you experience too with your clients, that sometimes you'll go through an initial, like almost like PMSy or kind of, when you haven't had estrogen for a little while and then suddenly you have estrogen again, like you can get all those symptoms for a minute, right? Like if it lasts for months, that's not good. But, it may be a week or two or something that you're going to deal with that. So she had that happen. And then she leveled out and she was like, oh my God, I feel amazing. I haven't felt this good in so long. And she was like, I can't believe by just putting this stuff on my skin, how much this is impacting my entire system, And I was like, yes, that's it right there, right? We don't think about that. And so you should really consider that with all products you put on your skin.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, down to the sunblock when I see people like slathering stuff on. But
Yeah.
I think that that was a perfect example because we all want this quick. We're in this space that we want these quick results. Well,
Hmm.
if it's taking you that long to decrease, it just doesn't overnight. It's not like poof, it happens. So I think another a problem, with HRT is that women are not getting the proper application. So when you buy from us, we do send something over our suggestions, and it's a one size fits all. So no one woman is the same, but you
Hmm.
want to start slower. You
Hmm.
just don't want to shock your body, so it's smaller in amounts, and
Yeah.
we walk you through the process, and we are here to support you because I do get a lot of questions. But exactly like you said, like women, I'll get comments like, I've tried it for 3 days and I don't feel better. I'm like,
Yeah.
so do you eat apples and oranges for 3 days and lose the 10 pounds? And no, it's
Right.
a process. And, it could take up to 2 cycles really
Yeah.
to even out. But people that are in tune with their bodies or, have other things that they're supporting their body with might feel a little sooner. So,
Right. Right. And I think that is really important to note in our sort of like, I want everything now kind of culture, right?
I,
Like,
I can say I can be like that
I
too.
can too, because we're all accustomed to it, right? It's like you Amazon that thing and it gets there in 2 days, and it's just like that's not how the body works, especially when you're sort of unwinding these different things. And so just be ready that there's gonna probably be some bumps in the road in the, first bit. That doesn't mean it's not gonna work for you. It's just like attuning your body, and letting it do its thing for a little while, and then obviously, like you said, I mean, I say in general, when, no matter even herbs and things like that, when we're talking about a woman's cycle, giving it 2 to 3 cycles in order to see if it's really working or not, because, everything from the egg that we have this month is from 3 months ago, so that's when it was starting to make its way. And so we have to give it all of that time in order to really see if something is working or not.
Yes, yeah, and
Yeah.
I think that sometimes is hard for women, and
Yeah.
I get it, especially when you're not feeling your best, right?
Yeah.
It's hard. So
It is totally hard. Yeah. So tell us, kind of like you said, starting low and slow. Do you have progesterone only products? Do you have combination products? At what point, I guess, I'm sorry, I'm throwing a lot of questions at you at once, but at what point do you start recommending combination products with progesterone and estrogen in them?
our Radiate Balance is just our natural progesterone
Okay.
cream. We're one of the only ones on the market with Vitex, which actually helps
Oh.
absorb. So not everything can be
Ah.
absorbed transdermally, but our Radiate Balance is for women in perimenopause. And I call it the perimenopause pack. If you're going to start on the HRT, again, I recommend the Joy and the Balance with it. I think that's like a great perimenopause
Mm.
pack. And
Mm-hmm.
then our Radiate Vitality is for women just that have already been through menopause. And this is a huge misconception. If you have not had a cycle for 365 days, you are in menopause. So many women, as their cycles start to spread out a little bit or get spotty, they're like, I'm in menopause. I'm like, you're not in menopause
Yeah.
yet. You still want to be using the natural progesterone and not switching off to the menopause, which is our vitality. So
And
um,
what's in the vitality?
it's estradiol, estriol, and progesterone. So
Progesterone. Gotcha. And how much? So in your progesterone product, how much progesterone is in there?
25.
25. Okay. Yeah. And so basically you recommend most women start off with, I'm assuming, one pump or
Yes. So
yeah.
one pump, and then as you've been through it for a week, we move on to 2 pumps. And then as you start to even out, obviously, once you have your period, you want to stop. You can wait, 10 days until you're in your menstrual cycle and then start it again. So.
Right, right, absolutely. Do you, because this is something that I get asked a lot with the topical stuff, do you have the best places for women to put it on their body that you recommend?
Yeah, so we always say, and again, that's in your application form when you get it, how to apply it. But for your thin-skinned areas, and you do want to rotate
Mhm.
your areas that you're applying, but thin-skinned areas up by your chest and your forearm, that's
Okay.
normally what I do, and I just rotate them around.
Okay, okay. So it doesn't have to be necessarily like on your elbow. It can be in this forearm area. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Uh,
And so obviously that's for your HRT, but
Yeah.
magnesium and vitamin D can be applied anywhere. And
Anywhere.
magnesium, I always say ours is like the modern Bengay. If you love to work out and you get sore muscles, ooh, rubbing
Oh,
that right on is like a dream come true.
that's
And
smart.
we have so many women too with restless leg, and magnesium is great
Mm.
to rub on your legs before you go to bed as well. So
Yeah, absolutely. What about like behind your knees? Is that another good place, or do you want to stay kind of up
you want to
part of your
stay,
body?
yeah, you
Okay,
want
with
to
the
stay
HRT.
above
Okay.
your liver. So
Okay.
HRT, we would say.
Oh, interesting. What about, I know some women do, put it on their labia. What do you think about that?
That's not really what we suggest, but
Gotcha. Yeah. Just curious your thoughts on that. Okay. So above the liver. Cool. I've never heard that before.
yeah,
Um, do you think that some women in perimenopause should go ahead and start with the combination formulas, the estriol, estradiol, progesterone?
for what? I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, if they're still in perimenopause, but maybe that late perimenopause. No, so
No.
absolutely wait until you get into menopause to bring that in.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And when we have women go through menopause, like a lot of things that I hear there obviously is the night sweats, the low energy.
Hmm.
Those are two. So when they start on Vitality, we just have so many women saying like, I feel like the energy again, like I feel like I can, get through the whole day again. So that's always
Hmm.
here and see.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Is there any point in perimenopause that you recommend that women go on a month-long progesterone cycle, or should they always stay within that sort of, luteal phase
I agree.
application?
The
Yeah.
luteal phase is what we suggest.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Just curious your thoughts on that. Do you have other products too?
Yes.
Yeah.
So we have Radiate Rest, which is melatonin, magnesium, and L-theanine, which is nice if you're
Nice.
really having those sleep disturbances.
Yep.
Radiate Energy, which is your B vitamins, so that's
Mm,
good as well. Radiate Beauty is like my hidden gem, like best facial moisturizer ever. Like it
ooh,
has AE, and it also has topical estriol, so it's like great for fine lines. It has
nice.
really turned my skin around. I love it.
Yeah. Is that
Um,
something that you can use even before going into menopause then?
oh yeah, of
Yeah.
course, yeah,
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
everyone. So
Yeah.
yeah,
So I think that I get that question sometimes too, like how is it okay to put estriol on your face and your neck? How does that not go systemic?
it only goes skin deep in your face, so that's what helps
Mm.
with the fine lines, which is at, at 44, I see them popping up more, which
Oh
I'm
yeah.
all about aging gracefully and looking beautiful, but I like the little
100%.
boost help
Yeah,
there.
yeah. It does that only go skin deep because of the formulation or is it where you're applying it?
Where you're applying it.
Gotcha. Okay. So the idea is with the thin skin, that's going to allow it to go systemically versus we have sort of thicker skin. Um,
And it's also the amount you're putting in. So there's
Gotcha.
definitely different factors, but yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Is it okay to use that on your neck too? Because I was like,
Mhm.
well, that's where I
Yeah.
where
And
the
I see
lines
my
come
age
in.
is coming. Yes.
Yeah, I'm
Me
like,
too.
it's the like, yeah, and I'm the same way that I, want to age gracefully, but you're just like, okay, I just want to not have
Yeah.
the crinkle neck or whatever they call it, quite yet.
No, I'm with you. I'm like, nope, I'm not there yet. I need a little longer.
Yeah, absolutely. So, what is the best way for people to, start getting into your products?
So radiatewellnessproducts.com. Again, if you're thinking about HRT, I would suggest the symptoms tracker, track
Mhm.
it, and then you can actually see what symptoms you're working with. If you feel like HRT is for you,
Mhm.
radiate balance. And then if you are on your menopause journey, then radiate vitality, and then just looking at the other supplements, what speaks to you and what you need. So.
Do you feel like women, I guess I'm curious if some of the women that, end up using your products, if they end up talking to their doctors about it too, if that's something that you would recommend that they do or that they don't do because I know not every doctor is open to HRT.
They're not. And, again, I'm not a doctor. I give the
Mhm.
information, the tools,
Mhm.
and I always say, you feel called to speak to your doctor, you absolutely should. And,
Mhm.
some women have other existing issues. And
Right.
I always say, speak to your doctor. But I do have women come back to me and they're like, my doctor says absolutely not. I'm like, okay, do your own research,
Yeah.
and you have to be the CEO of your own health. And
100%.
I think that you have to do your own research too. And I can say I was included in that group too. So
Yep.
um, I think
Yeah.
it's important to deep dive. And there's so much information out there now, and it's so nice. Finally, now women are talking about it. Like when I started
Exactly.
this 5 years ago, people would have looked at me like an alien, and
Bet.
it's just the awareness is happening, and it's really an exciting time. And I just want to help as many women as we can, because you do not have to suffer through aging. You don't.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Like it should be some of the best time of your life, right? Because it's like for a lot of women, maybe their kids are grown or getting near grown and, their career may be doing really well. And it's like you want to have the energy and the vitality and, continue to have a sex life in most instances, right? Where that's such a huge thing too for so many of my clients that libido just kind of starts crashing.
Yeah.
So
And
having
the
Yes,
mood
in the mood
swings,
swings.
like, I have women all the time, like, "I used to never scream at my kids and my husband like this." And I'm like,
Right.
I'm sorry you're feeling this way. Let's get you back on track." And
Yeah.
when they start to feel that balance again, they're like, it was like an out of body experience. I'm like, "You can explain it like that. I understand." So,
Yep. Yep,
yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, and just piggybacking off what you said about doing the research, and I'm so glad that there's so many available things now. Estrogen Matters is one of my favorite books that I recommend to women because it really dispels particularly like the breast cancer but other, things that the Women's Health Initiative research made us believe
Mhm.
that that HRT, I mean, they were looking more at HRT rather than BHRT, but that scared so many women and doctors off of hormone replacement therapy. And I feel like that book does one of the best things to dispel, like study by study, like breaking it down for what it really showed. So I think especially if women have breast cancer in their families, a lot of times they're much more fearful and everything. So to really understand that so much of the research before the Women's Health Initiative and then post Women's Health Initiative does not show what we thought we learned from that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I just did a presentation recently for a group of women that I'd say the majority, a good amount of them were in menopause or late perimenopause, and I was talking about sort of working with your cycle in terms of sort of syncing your life to your cycle. And every single one of them came up afterwards and just said, I wish I had known this information, like I wish that this was something that had been taught to us because I knew none of this, and I'm like, I know it sucks. And at least now, you can teach your daughters, you can teach your nieces, you can teach your kids' friends, and you can still utilize so much of this with BHRT. You can really, sync your cycle in so many ways to your life.
Yeah, I get
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
all the
Yeah.
time. Like, I wish I would have known. I'm like, okay, but these are things that you can make your life better as you move forward, and it's the here and now. But it kind of breaks my heart, because I feel like if I didn't speak up, and I mean, my path in life completely changed from it. So I
Yeah.
understand. I
Yeah.
understand it.
Yeah. Absolutely. Okay. So let us know one more time what the website is.
RadiateWellnessProducts.com.
Okay, great. So everybody go check it out. I was like, I definitely have a client that I'm going to recommend the magnesium for. Like as soon as you started talking about that, I was like, oh, because she's just got all this stuff up in her shoulder. So perfect.
That's where I
Yeah.
carry my stress too, so I understand it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, just get it on out of there. So, well, thank you so much for your time today.
Yes, thank you so much.
I
I
really
cannot
appreciate
wait
it.
to connect more, and yeah, help as
Yeah.
many women as we can. So we'll keep
Yeah.
on keeping on.
Absolutely. All right, you guys, thanks for being here this week, and I will see you next time.
Have a beautiful day.